I have the top talent, Christian Casanova.
What's up, Eric?
What's up, man? What's up? Let's start this awesome interview. Let's start with what made you want to become a pro wrestler?
Okay. I always been a pro wrestling fan when I was a kid. I just remember seeing it on TV and really just getting hooked by just how cool these guys were. Like I remember, I wasn't really I liked superheroes and stuff like that, but like these guys were just cool. Like they had personalities, and they were just the way that they looked. And at that time, like early 2000s, wrestling was hot. Late 90s, early 2000s, and it was just the hottest thing going. So I just remember looking at those guys like, dang, I want to be those guys when I grow up. And yeah, that was my goal, and that's what I'm trying to do still.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about, especially with you talking about
Yeah.
that being your goal. So tell me a few wrestlers that really stood out to you, the ones that you would really thank, that you watched them on TV and wanted to pursue it.
Yeah. When people ask me that question, I always go back to the SmackDown roster of like '02, '03, '04, that whole ruthless aggression era. So I gotta say like Eddie Guerrero, Edge, Rey Mysterio, The Undertaker, and then like guys like RVD, Shawn Michaels, Kane. I loved Kane, Booker T. But when people ask me this question, I always just go off. Like I can never just name one or two, but all those guys really just influenced me, and those are guys that I looked up to when I was a kid.
Awesome, awesome, and I completely understand. Where you're going from when you talk about SmackDown. I completely get it. That it was hot. The show itself gave good product. So
Right.
tell me more about your background. Tell me more about your like childhood. Like what? How was life for you? As you wanting to become a pro wrestler.
Yeah, so I've always been athletic. I've always been in sports. I remember I was doing football, I was doing baseball, and then I used to wrestle in my backyard. And funny story about that was down the street, one of the high school wrestling coach. He was a high school wrestling coach, and he saw us doing it. He's like, "What are you guys doing, man? Like, you guys gonna get hurt." He's like, "How about like you guys come?" And we were young. We were like 8 years old, 8, 9, and 10. He's like, "How about you guys come to a practice and we'll teach you how to do it the right way so you guys don't get hurt." And we thought it was going to be WWE. So he brought us to wrestling like practices and on the mat, like high school wrestling. And so I started high school wrestling. Well, not high school. I started amateur wrestling when I was 8. And then we started doing tournaments. We actually were where I grew up. We were the youngest at that time. So he put us in amateur wrestling. I was 8 years old. I did that. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did that for 4 years. I once I got to high school, ninth grade, I was playing football, and then I was gonna do wrestling. And I remember my grades. I was like kind of slacking off a little bit. My grades wouldn't allow me to do it. I remember him being so disappointed. But I'd always been in sports. Baseball was my favorite sport. Then it was wrestling, and it was football.
That's awesome. Where'd you grow up? Where?
Yeah, so I grew up about 40 minutes from Boston in a town. It's called Framingham. It's a city now, but it's called Framingham, and it's in Massachusetts.
All right. So tell me about your first ever wrestling match. Tell me where you found the school that took you in, trained you. How did all that
Yeah.
happen?
So the school that trained me, the story behind me actually starting wrestling is kind of funny because when I was in high school, I had fallen out of love with pro wrestling. I really wasn't into it as much as I used to when I was a kid. It's because it wasn't cool, when you're in high school, people don't look at it like, oh, pro wrestling, like, oh, you watch that. So like I had fallen out of love with it, and it was like kind of a down period in pro wrestling, like 2008, 9, 10, like though that,
Yeah.
those couple of years. So I got out of high school, and I remember one of my buddies was like, hey, like they got a 1-day fantasy camp going on for pro wrestling. We should try it. And I was like, dude, hell yeah. We went and we did it. And I remember I never stopped. Like I just kept going. So I did the fantasy camp, and still to this day, I never stopped at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy. So I got to give them props. Sasha Banks came out of that school. Kofi had trained there for a little while. Tommaso had trained there for a little while. Ivar, Dijak, so many guys.
Yeah, the alumni list is crazy. So tell me about your first match. Tell me about, you
Yeah,
lacing up the boots for the first time with a live audience.
right. Yeah, that was crazy. It was in New Hampshire. It was in Littleton, New Hampshire. It was against a guy who I'd come up with. His name was Mikey Webb. They had me as a heel, and I had never worked as a heel or really even as a babyface, but definitely not as a heel. And I was definitely not believable as a heel. I was 19, so skinny. And yeah, I don't know. I guess it was okay. I watched the match back a couple of years ago. It wasn't terrible. Um, Not something that I would ever show anybody. But I tried, and it was, a passable match. But I do remember like that feeling of, oh my God, I had my first match. Like I can't wait to do it again. It's crazy.
No, yeah, that feeling must be amazing. But it's
Yeah.
amazing how you talk about you're not being good as a heel when that's where we see you in the independent scene. We see you sometimes rocking the heel aspect, and you're doing such a great job at it, which is amazing. So that's great to hear that at first it wasn't the best transition. So
Right.
it's amazing because your name has been coming out a lot during the pandemic, even before the pandemic, with just independent wrestling. How has that been for you? The fact that you made the PWI, tell me all of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, like that was crazy. I remember when I got, right before everything kind of closed down, they gave me the one to watch. So I had my own little paper, or my own little page in the magazine. And I remember being a kid, dude. I remember being a little kid and going to the Barnes and Noble just to read that magazine. Um, it's just so crazy. And I remember looking at the names and like learning about guys that I had never even heard about. Like even like AJ Styles. Like I knew who AJ Styles was for a long time as a kid. Just seeing his name pop up all the time on that magazine. So that was surreal to me. But yeah, no, I'm just so grateful that everything kind of popped off the way it did, and I got the recognition right before everything happened with COVID, because like, man, that climb, trying to get that exposure back, it has been difficult for a lot of people, and luckily I just hit the mark right before, where I could pick back up where I left off almost. So I'm just extremely grateful.
No, yeah, you've been, like I said, during the pandemic, your name has been coming out there a lot, and a lot of wrestlers are getting pushed or signed to so many places. Who knows? Who knows when the next check is coming out? It's always like you never know when your last independent show is until it happens, which is
Yeah,
amazing. So tell me a few
true.
places that you currently would like to join. Like, tell me just some companies that you feel like would use your talent the right way or the way you want it to be used.
So right before COVID, I was actually talking with Ring of Honor. I had a date with them in April in New York. I was getting set to debut. I had done something with them prior. So I mean, that ended up not going through because of COVID. You know what I mean? Like nothing else. And then now they have such a strict schedule with trying to get the guys that they already have on their roster exposed to doing what they're doing in their storyline. So I mean, right now I'm keeping my options open. I love what AEW is doing. I also love what NXT is doing. So like I can't really pick one over the other at the moment. And then like an MLW, I think what they're doing is great too. I had been in talks with them prior to everything that happened with COVID, but that really didn't seem like something that at the time that was going to happen. So I mean, who knows? It still might. But yeah, so like I'm looking at the top two, AEW and NXT, just because prior to COVID I had wanted to get my feet wet first, but now I just like decided that like I'm gonna go to the top or nothing at all.
Awesome. All right. I kind of thought you'd be perfect for Impact. I've been watching Impact a lot, and they've been, mainstreaming and everything they've had going on right now. I thought you'd be
No,
perfect
yeah,
for
they're
that
cool
roster.
too, definitely, and I have a lot of friends over there too.
Awesome. All right. So tell me a few matches. Speaking of friends, tell me a few matches that you've had that you think everyone should definitely check out. Obviously, not your first match, but just, any match that you think was an amazing storyline, amazing rivalry. I liked your match with Casey, the mixed tag match.
Yeah, with Tasha.
That was a good one.
I always point people, especially lately, I've been pointing people to my most recent stuff. I had great matches with Myron Reed in Limitless. I had a great match with John Silver in Beyond. I had a really fun match with Richard Holiday at Northeast Wrestling and at Beyond. But man, they've been dropping a lot of matches. Beyond Wrestling has been dropping a lot of matches. So all of those matches, you can check me out. I enjoyed all those matches. And then same with Limitless. Like I had a bunch of bangers with Limitless. Yeah, so I point people over. Just go to YouTube and just type in my name and watch anything recent.
Awesome. All right. So tell me a few names you haven't gone into the ring with and you definitely want to.
I want to. Alex Shelley's one of them. He's at the top. Leo Rush is at the top of the list. Lee Moriarty's at the top of the list. AJ Gray. Brian Pillman's up there. I've never worked with him. I always blank when people ask me this because I got.
Well, yeah, it's a hard question. You know, you don't want to pick and choose. But all right, let's go with this list that you mentioned so far. I was shocked because I interviewed Alex Shelley, and that was the first guy on your list. Tell me why Alex Shelley. Why does that stand out to you? I haven't heard a lot of people go, "Oh, Alex Shelley's the guy I definitely want to get in the ring with." But I would like to know why you feel that way.
Yeah, no, I just think that he's an incredible talent. I mean, I had seen him live for the first time when I was out at Black Label Pro in Indiana a couple weeks ago, and I was just so impressed. Not only that, but he does have a high name value. Like it's not like a indie guy. Like he's been around for a long time. And personally, the reason why I put him at the top is because I feel like I can learn a lot from somebody like that. And I feel like he's the type of guy that can push me to my limits. And I'll come out of that match being better. Really, not for clout or anything like that. Really, just personally, just because I think he can push me to a limit that I haven't been before.
Awesome. No, yeah, and he has had that name where he has been a teacher. He trained a lot of independent guys, and that's what he's passionate about currently. So it's always awesome to hear that you would want to face him, knowing that his background, his history in tag team wrestling and singles competition.
Yeah.
So another place that we have not mentioned that I wanted to is New Japan Pro Wrestling. What would it take?
Japan, right.
Would you fly? Would you move to Japan if they offered you a contract? That's something I always like to ask people because when I go with Joseph from New Japan, they'd be like, yeah. But knowing the actual context of flying to Japan, signing with them, would that ever be in consideration for you?
No, I definitely go and do a tour with. I can't really say that because I've never experienced Japan, but I know that some people that I do know that have, it's either you love it or you hate it. And it's not having to do with working for New Japan. I hear working for New Japan is amazing. I'm talking more or less the culture shock of being in Japan. I mean, I'd love to go. I mean, shoot, I'd be willing to go there and give up that part of my life, for the time being. But living there and being there, full time, I can't say that at the moment. Yes. But, who knows? Like, who knows how that works? I know a lot of guys will go for, like, a month or two. That's something that I'd be willing to do. But I couldn't see myself completely going to Japan for New Japan because my eyes are set more on American-based company.
All right, and that's totally understandable. That's completely understandable.
Yeah.
So I like to get the people talking. That's mainly why we do this. So if you did go on tour with New Japan, who are a few guys? I'm gonna just go with 3, so you don't have to keep listing. Give me 3 guys that you definitely want to get in the ring with, and then give me reasons why you definitely want to get in the ring with them.
Jay White, 100%. Kota Ibushi, 100%. No, this is tough picking the last one. There's a lot of good guys. Taiji Ishimori, I think, is great. I think him and I would have a great match. Just because he's one of those guys, like his style is a lot similar to mine. But it's hard to pick. I mean, I want to wrestle all the top guys over there.
Of course, that's the goal.
Even Minoru Suzuki, I'll go against him too. I don't care. I'll wrestle any of the top guys over there, really.
That's awesome. All right, well, I'm gonna ask you. Pick Jay White, leader of Bullet Club. Why Jay White? Why was that the first guy?
Yeah, I just look at the top of the food chain. Not saying he's necessarily the top of the food chain, but as far as like his style goes, he can do American style and Japanese style, which isn't too far off. I don't want to make it sound like it's some crazy different style. But I think that him and I would have good chemistry. And and he looks great right now, and he's like on top of his game, and that's the type of people that I want to be in the ring with.
Of course, and that's probably why I picked Bush as well, winner of the G1.
Yeah.
they're being.
Oh yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. So tell me, since 2020 has been more or less a difficult year for a lot of people. Tell me what match really stood out to you in 2020. One that you were like, my year wasn't that bad because I had this match, or any
my
aspect like
match.
that. Yeah, your match. Has to be your match.
All right. In 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, easy. My match with ACH. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I was thinking, and then I was like, nah, that's an easy one. My match with ACH, man. I'm telling you, like, that guy is so freaking good. It's just he made me feel like I need to put myself higher on a higher level. Like, sometimes you get in the ring with guys like that, and you just realize you're like, wow, like, damn, there's even another level to this shit. Like that I didn't even know. So he was just so good and so selfless in the sense of, I wanted to make him look great and he wanted to make me look great. And when you get to be in the ring with people like that, like everyone looks great. Not saying people don't want to make you look great, but some people don't know how.
Yeah.
But when you get in the ring with people like that, so selfless and so talented in their own right, it just elevates everyone in the match. So ACH, I'm so happy I got that match this year. Like, that match, I think, got me a lot of buzz coming out of everything with quarantine.
Awesome. And you're such a modest guy, but you know it's true. Some guys might care about themselves in the ring, and it's like you don't want to say that, but there's a lot of people you meet in the locker room. Locker rooms have changed, but there will be one or two that you'll meet that will only care about the way they wrestle and the way they act. But I want to ask you, and if you don't mind, ACH. There's been a lot of things said about ACH. Is there anything that you could tell people listening or fans? Something about ACH, something that he did or said that like is on like a story, like something you would tell others?
I'd never put anybody's business out there. That would be more for him to say. But he was just he was in such a good mood. He was just being such a cool dude to me. Like, he didn't have to, you know what I mean? He told me he was excited when he found out he was getting ready to work me or when I was going to be his opponent. He's just in such a good headspace right now. So I think that that's probably the most that I'll say about that. Just because, I mean, if anybody wants to know anything about ACH, that's up to him to say. You know what I mean?
And I didn't want you to say how he was acting. Just any advice that he gave you, because you're new in the business.
Sorry, dude,
he's a veteran in the business. Yeah, I didn't want anything about him. I just wanted to know what he said to you as a veteran. Because you're getting into this business. He's pretty much a veteran in this business.
Right. I mean, no, he did give me critique, like small critique on things, you know what I mean? But at the end of the match, so he was so cool. I remember him telling me like, respect, like, you got my respect. And that was one of the things that's like being a performer means the most to you, because you go into these matches with these guys who you don't really know. I didn't know Albert until, I know of him in, high and by, but I didn't know him. And coming out of that type of match with somebody like that, like, you want to build their respect. You don't want them leaving that match thinking, oh man, this kid freaking sucked, or like, yeah, screw this, like, damn, I had to freaking work extra hard that night just to, you know what I mean? But after the match, he was just so humble and thank you so much. Like, I respect. So I can say that much.
It's also, it's hard to get in the ring with you and not have a bright and shiny match. You know what I mean? Like, with the atmosphere that you bring or your wrestling style, everyone's got their own styles. There's aerial, there's bruiser, there's strong style. What you bring to the table is very different than what anyone else could bring to the table. You have your own charisma, which again is completely different to how anyone else can state. But, another question I'd like to ask you is, you have wrestled for a long time so far, and you've done a lot. Tell me what one match that time stood still, a match that you yourself, this is 2020, just a match that really told you that, hey, I shouldn't give up on this. This is where my journey starts. This is like the big climax of how I want to continue I know these are all hard questions.
No, these are great questions. These are really good questions, bro. All right, I can tell a story about, and I don't. This is gonna sound weird because it's like when time stood still. Like that's what I'm thinking about when you
Good,
said
yeah.
it. When time stood still for me was the time that I wrestled Rey Mysterio, and his music hit, and I was in the ring, and that's when I remember times like really standing still. Even right before that, when we were in the little tunnel and I was getting ready to go out, and he was like putting his mask on. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like that. I remember that's when time really stood still for me, as far as like, oh my God, like what am I doing? Where am I? This is crazy. This is my dream. And then when I was about to take the 619, and I know I sound like a fanboy, but like I don't care. You know what I mean? Because
Of course.
I was him as Halloween when I was like 8 years old on Halloween. You know, he was one of my favorites, and anyone who's ever been in the ring with him will probably tell you the same thing about how cool of an experience that it is. So that's definitely a moment that's still, you know, for me.
That's awesome. All right, and tell me just one of the great one. So that was okay. So I see why it was confusing. I gave you more than one question. That's what it was. So time
Okay.
stood still was one, and tell me one moment that you just cherish. Does it have to be time stood still? Just a moment where your career started, where your wrestling career started. So that point.
Oh, early.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. That I cherished. Okay, I really gotta think, dude, because I'm like, after a while, it's crazy. Like you like try to forget some of this.
Well, yeah,
shit
you're
from-
taking bumps. I mean, let's be honest. You're taking these bumps. I doubt you remember what you ate for breakfast a couple days ago. Like, it's not an easy thing. Like, there's a whole other
no.
conversation to like, what was the biggest injury you've ever had, or have you ever had a concussion? You know, there's a lot of.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know, man. I don't really know time that I can think of that. I don't want to like skip your question.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't give you like a straight answer. Like I can't think about like a moment that I cherish. I cherish a lot of moments.
Well, let's
but
be honest. Maybe it hasn't even happened yet. Maybe that's a lot of
Yeah.
wrestlers are prideful, where it's like I haven't had my moment yet. When I do, I'll know it. But so far, I haven't. Had
Yeah.
it.
Because I feel like if I really, truly, truly did, it would be easy to say, and it is kind of difficult for me to say. So I don't want to, you know, short any answer on that. So I'm just not going to answer that.
All right, no problem, no problem. So let's talk about a fun one, because I'm sure you've been thinking about this yourself. You talk about NXT, you talk about AEW. Those are obviously the biggest ones on your mind right now, where you want to go, because you're the top talent. You want to go to the top companies. So I know you've been thinking about this. What are a few guys, let's say 3, that you want to face in that company, and why do you think, and why do you want to face them? What gives your match with them anything better than anything else that they've done?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's WWE or NXT or what?
Well, however you want to start. We could do NXT, we could do AEW, however you want to start.
All right, I'm just gonna start with WWE.
No problem.
One of the guys that I want to have a match with because I know will be great is Seth Rollins. I genuinely think he's like one of the best wrestlers in the world right now. I hope he gets all the credit for being as good as he really is, because he is genuinely one of the best wrestlers in the world right now. Not just in the ring, but on the mic, character-wise, and everything. So I got to say, right off the bat, Seth Rollins, that's definitely a dream match of mine. And then I got to go right behind him is Roman Reigns. Come on, you really cannot deny Roman Reigns. He gets a lot of shit, because he's very similar to like a John Cena, where people feel like he's like put down your throat or forced down your throat or whatever. But I mean, come on, dude, look at the guy. Like he looks like $1 million, and his work is just so clean. So I got to say first Seth Rollins, then Roman Reigns. And these are just like main roster guys.
Yeah.
These aren't even, you know what I mean? I'm just saying main roster guys. And then third would probably be, I'm going to say Kofi. I'm going to just like throw one out there. I think Kofi, I think Kofi and I would have a great match. And especially because he came from this area, that'd just be a cool experience and something that, would be kind of special. So those are my top 3 with WWE, and then I'll go over to AEW real quick. I wrestled a lot of those guys in AEW, so it's hard to think of somebody I haven't wrestled. But one guy I know I would have a killer match with this Cody. I know I'd have a great match with Cody. Like I just so confident because his style is so adaptable, and I think my style is very adaptable that, you know, him and I could both tell a great story, and it could be very exciting. So he's at the top of my list. Another guy who's at the top of my list, and I tell people this as a joke, but I'm so serious, is Chris Jericho.
Why is that a joke? Why would that be a joke?
Because right. But people would be like, oh, like for example, I'll say like, oh, I want to go to AEW so I can wrestle Chris Jericho.
I don't get it. Is it just because it's impossible? Is it because it's like a
No. Because people think, oh, that's the only reason why you want to go to AEW. Like that's why. Like, but no, like seriously, like I think I would have a great freaking match with Chris Jericho. Like I don't know why. I just know I'd have a good match with him, and like not even just being a fan, like it just of his style and the way he works and the way I work, and I just think that Chris Jericho versus Christian Casanova would be a great match. So that's number 2, and then I'll go number 3. I'll say that I haven't wrestled over there. I'll say Pac. I think him and I would have a good match.
All the hard ones. I would never want to get in the ring with Pac, breaking people's arms. You're over there. That's the guy you want to sign your soul up to.
I'm not scared, bro. Like I think about it. Like I've been in the ring with freaking everybody. Like I'm not afraid of really anybody at this point. I'm just for fun. So.
After you mentioned, after you finish up with AEW, which I think you're about to. You just said that you haven't been afraid of people. Who have you actually? Because everyone has stage fright. Everyone's had that. Even like me interviewing, I've had issues where it's like, oh my god, I'm nervous. So tell me who you were about to get in the ring with, and it was like the Rey Mysterio story, like how you were going crazy with time stood still. Tell me about a couple guys tell me just a story, just a backstage story about how you were feeling during some wrestling events.
So I'll tell you my mindset when I go into matches. And this is one of the things that I think have been so important for me moving forward and me not getting myself too hyped up is I've never, and I'm going to say I've never because I've never, until like I don't really look at a guy, even a name, I don't look at him like a name or like who he is at all going into a match because I purposely know that if I do that, I'm going to psych myself out. And I'm going to pull back or I'm going to... Like, I remember I worked John Moxley. We did a tag match. It was me and JT Dunn versus Darby Allin and John Moxley. And I remember thinking, like, oh, shit, this is Dean Ambrose. And I was like, nah, chill. Like, you know what I mean? Like that. Like, oh, shit, like, all right, relax. And then, like, even just talking to him like a dude, and he was being freaking just cool as hell. And a lot of these guys don't come off like who they are on TV. So it's easy. So, like, I'll tell you that, like, I do personally not look at them to the point where I get myself nervous. And I think that that's helped me a lot in my career, no matter who it is. Even if they've been on TV or not, I just don't psych myself out because I trust my skills. Strategy. You know what I mean? I trust myself. I trust my skills. Like, I know that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And as long as I do my part, then we're okay. That's the way I look at it.
Awesome. All right. So, well, then we're gonna avoid that one then, because you just answered that you don't get psyched out. You don't let yourself get like fanboy or whatever, which makes perfectly good example. All right. So tell me about the largest card you ever worked and the smallest card you ever worked, and if you have worked a crowd, which I think you have, with no audience during COVID, don't mention those. Don't mention any of those. Mention one that just could be your first ever match or anything like that.
Yeah, the largest crowd. The largest crowd I think that I worked was it was like a stadium show, and I believe like the Young Bucks were on it. Marty Scurll was on it. It was just a stack show. So Northeast Wrestling, I'm not sure you're familiar with Northeast Wrestling.
Yeah, I think Cody was on that one too, right? Was Cody on that event?
Yeah. So they every summer they do stadium shows, and I just remember those stadium shows are packed. I mean, I feel bad because I can't even name all the guys that are on those shows, but that was definitely one of those ones was one of the biggest ones that I'd been on. And then, I mean, we could go back to when I first started just doing smaller shows. I remember there was a show I did, and it was like 7 or 8 people. But that's everyone, you know what I mean? Everyone has that bad story eventually, like where they, you know, work in front of a couple people. And at that point, I was just happy to be booked. So it didn't really matter that there wasn't very many people there. And yeah.
The reason why I love to ask this question is because I like to see the expression on the face when you think about how I worked with 7 people and then with the stadium show. Like just think about how you're transitioning to 2 different big options, which is insane.
Yeah,
right.
No, I haven't had the fortunate pleasure to work in front of like an arena yet. I know a lot of guys have done that with like doing extra work, so it's almost like I wouldn't even know.
I'm telling you, it'll hit. Don't worry, because everyone's eager, but your name is out there enough that like everyone thinks you're about to get signed. You can be the next signing, and that's the greatest feeling about it. That your name is already out. Would you like as a wrestler? That's your goal. But then when you actually see that your name's out there, isn't it like breathtaking or shocking just to know that every locker room is talking about you or any company is mentioning you?
So far, I mean, I haven't heard anything specific. I know like I had talked to a couple places, like, but the 2 big ones, like I haven't really heard too much yet from it. So it's like, I know I hear a lot of rumblings around, you know what I mean, like where I am and things like that. But you know, I don't really even. It definitely feels great. Like I don't want to, you know, go away from that question. It feels amazing because like I know how hard I worked and I know how much I sacrificed, and I saw all my friends go to that next level, all of them. You know what I mean? And like they're there now. You know, and I've wrestled guys coming back from WWE, and I wrestled guys going to WWE or going to AEW. So it's like I've been that middleman for so long that it's like, hey, like, you know, I'm hungry too. Like, when's my meal coming? So like, and I feel like it is coming soon, and that's like one of the best feelings where I'm like, like such a relief. Like I'm not hesitant or questioning. Like, is it going to happen? It's not if, but when.
Yeah, and you know, you brought it up, and I want to talk about it because it is a big deal. COVID did affect a lot of people, a lot of wrestlers, you know, just with dream matches or big moments. Ring of Honor is obviously such a big opportunity, and Ring of Honor is the type of company to forget about who they want in their roster. So you should already know that spot that's there. You got to wait for time to stick, and who knows? Other companies over here that's you know what's going on, and they want to get you. It's a really there's a lot of strategies when it comes to wrestlers. Like for example, Benjamin Carter, who I believe signed with WWE, was wrestling for AEW, and there was a rumbling that WWE knew AEW was going to sign him, so they wanted to do it. So there's a lot of companies that are overhearing everything. So the fact that Ring of Honor, you know, is putting your name out there, and who knows, we could see you the next couple of months. You know, who knows? But you know, tell me about Ring of Honor. Tell me about some of the roster that you definitely want to get in with. Like, tell me about a few people that you want to wrestle in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, just real quick, going back to that, that's a great point, bro. Like everyone or nobody wants you till everybody wants you, and that's kind of like almost what I can see ending up happening for me, which is, you know, unfortunate because it's like you know you want everyone to kind of send you feels around the same time so you have options, as opposed to like when you get an offer and it's like, oh well, hey, well now we want you. It's like, well, what the hell? Like, where were you guys before?
There's a lot of messed up things going on. Like, you know, WWE did a really messed up thing over COVID when they released 30 guys that they had on their payroll. There's a lot of things right now, and right now it's one of these things where it's like you said, it's predator versus prey. You got to go for the biggest meal, and that's what this is right now. Every company, even if they don't look like it, they're struggling. Wrestling itself is struggling to find what the best product is. So even to be like, for example, GCW, like you said, Black Label Pro, even that alone, you're eating the big meals a lot of people aren't. You know, you're the name right now in the independent scene. Independent scene itself is growing with the whole, you know, being the elite or the elite, how they brought up the independent scene, how Hot Topic is selling independent scene merch and all that. You know, you're guys that everyone looks at. and that's the next fresh meal. It's not like how it was when Cena came along, or Batista or Hunter. It's very different than that now. Now they know where the
Right.
talent's coming from and where to get. So I'm sure that when contract does come to your hand, it'll be more than one. It will definitely be more than, you'll have options.
Yeah, I hope so, bro. But to answer your question about Ring of Honor, all my boys are in Ring of Honor too. Like I have a lot of friends over there. Flip Gordon, he's one of my buddies.
I love that match. You and Flip Gordon had a great match, so I like that match a lot.
Oh, you saw it? Cool.
Yeah, good match.
He's somebody that I've wrestled before. The one person, and it's funny because like I train with Matt Taven and Vinny Marcellia. So the Kingdom or whatever. So I train with those guys on Mondays and on Wednesdays. So those are guys that I'm actually really kind of close with. And I know that they, a lot of people over there push for me. At one point, somebody had told me not to sign or to wait on signing because, they were interested. Again, that was before COVID. So that was, so like I had my foot in the door, and then I wrestled Delirious. And him and we had a great match and we got along great. So like you said, bro, like I definitely think that they are like, there is still a spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a matter of like actually being able to like come up with the money or whatever, exactly however that works, or the space or however, but I'm not holding my breath anymore. So like if they want to make an offer or whatever, hopefully sooner than later, but whatever. But yeah, Ring of Honor, I think, I'm excited to see what they come up with moving forward. Because like I said, a lot of my boys are over there and I wish them nothing but the best.
That's awesome. All right, and I'm sure we are coming out to the end. I'm sure we're we've done a lot. We've done a lot of talking, but what is one thing that you want everyone that's listening to hear from you? Like let's say they didn't know who you were, which again I doubt. But let's say they didn't know who you were. Let's say they're living in their own bubble with the companies. What is something that you definitely want people to know from you? You are the top talent. Gimmicks aside, what is the one thing that you want to address to everyone as they're figuring out who you are?
Um,
I hit you with all the hard ones. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I was
no,
told.
yeah,
I was told
not
that
even
it's
hard. Just making me think. That's fine. All right. Yeah, if they don't know, I mean, I really honestly like and it's funny, and my style, like the type of wrestler that I want to be is that if nobody had ever seen wrestling before, or if they're not a fan of wrestling, like when they watch me, I want them. I don't really watch wrestling, but like that guy's pretty good. Oh, did my headphones just go on? Hold on, one sec, bro. Oh yeah.
No problem.
Like I don't watch wrestling, but like that guy's actually pretty good. Like this guy makes me kind of want to watch wrestling a little bit. Like he's cool. Like I look up to him because I remember when I was a kid, that was the same kind of feeling that I had. I did like wrestling, luckily, but like there was guys that almost transcend wrestling in a way. Like, like he's not just wrestling cool, but like he's actually cool. You know what I mean? And I want to be able to like genuinely inspire, people who aren't wrestling fans that watch, that tune in to the product and say like, wow, like I'll buy that guy's merch. Like I'll support that guy, even though I don't know anything about wrestling or that guy looks good. Like that guy looks like he works hard. That guy looks like he cares. I don't want people to watch my work and think like, oh, wrestling is big. You know what I mean? That's another big thing of mine. It's like I want people to believe what I'm doing. I'm not killing guys, but I want it to look exciting enough to where people are like, wow, like that's actually pretty impressive. And that's entertaining. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I want people to have or to feel, especially if they didn't know me or if they were watching me for the first time. Like I want people to realize that's really my goal at the end of the day, is to transcend to an audience greater than pro wrestling.
Awesome. All right. So you brought up merch. How could we support you? If there are diehard fans that are listening to this now, which I believe there will be a lot of diehard fans, so just see your name and click on this video. How could we support you with merch? How could we support you by following your social media pages?
Yeah. So I have my own website. It's www.toptalentbrand.com. And I have all my merch on there. So I have Top Talent Season T-shirts. I have Icon Living long sleeves. I have Top Talent Season hoodies. I have a Quarantine Season T-shirt. And yeah, so I got a bunch of stuff on there. Getting ready to drop some new stuff, but I kind of want to get some of my current stuff out first. I don't want to overdo it. I just kind of want people to just see what they like now, and then eventually maybe towards winter time move towards maybe joggers or something like that. But yeah, so I got my own website. You can find it if you go on my Instagram, Real Top Talent. You can find it in my bio, or you can just shoot me a message and I can direct you to that.
Awesome. Where can we follow you on all platforms of social media?
Yep. Like I said, so on Instagram, I'm Real Top Talent. On Twitter, I'm Kill4 Nova. And those are the two big ones to catch me on. I'm not really using Facebook as much anymore, but and then like I said, I have my website, which is www.toptalentbrand.com.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening. See you guys next time.
Dude, thank you so much for having me, bro. I appreciate you.
Of course, man.